The story of the film begins in a London orphanage, where a little girl named Sophie, played by Ruby Barnhill, is awake at the witching hour, the time when the boogeyman is said to appear. She spots a group of drunken men in the street below and yells at them, threatening to call the police. Sophie then returns to her bed but is startled by a noise from another window. She sees cats rummaging through trash and a giant hand lifting a bin. Sophie looks up to see a colossal man, played by Mark Rylance, walking by. The giant notices her and plucks her out of her bed through the window, carrying her all the way back to his home in Giant Country, undetected by humans. Initially afraid, Sophie is surprised to learn that the giant, whom she nicknames the Big Friendly Giant, does not intend to harm her. Instead, he admits that he took her to prevent her from spreading the word of his existence, fearing that humans might hunt him down. Sophie also discovers that the giant speaks in a peculiar language, using unconventional vocabulary and expressions. As Sophie gets to know the giant, he reads her a book and she eventually falls asleep. Meanwhile, the giant tends to his collection of dreams, which he has captured in jars. Sophie has a nightmare where she is captured by an even bigger giant who threatens to eat her while the Big Friendly Giant, BFG, stands powerless in the distance. Upon waking up, BFG reveals that he was responsible for the dream. Later, Sophie watches as BFG drinks a fizzy green drink called frobscottle, which has the peculiar effect of causing explosive farts called whiz poppers. Fleshlumpeter, a giant who torments BFG in his smaller stature, enters BFG's home, causing Sophie to hide in a snozzcumber. Fleshlumpeter almost eats the snozzcumber, but is reminded that he hates vegetables. The giant then takes the frobscottle and departs. BFG later takes Sophie to clean herself, offering her spare clothes from a pile, including a red coat belonging to a child he had previously befriended before he was eaten by the other giants. BFG shows Sophie his extensive collection of dreams, preparing to take her to the hill where he collects them. However, they must pass Fleshlumpeter and his gang of giants who are asleep. While sneaking past them, BFG is caught, and the giants toss him around like a ball. However, they scatter when it starts to rain, which terrifies them. Unfortunately, Sophie unintentionally leaves a blanket behind, and Fleshlumpeter picks up the scent of a human. BFG and Sophie eventually make it to the hill, where they jump into a lake that transports them to the realm of dreams. While there, Sophie catches a dream that BFG cannot capture, leading him to declare it her dream. The story of the BFG is a heartwarming tale of friendship, bravery, and imagination that showcases the power of dreams and the bonds that can form between the unlikeliest of friends. BFG and Sophie venture into London, where BFG demonstrates how he gives people dreams. Using his trumpet, he places a dream into a boy's mind, causing him to dream about receiving a phone call from the President of the United States. However, when BFG discovers that Sophie's blanket may have been found by the other, more dangerous giants, he realizes that it is no longer safe for her to stay with him. Knowing that other children he had previously taken care of were eventually taken and eaten by the giants, BFG reluctantly returns Sophie to the orphanage. But Sophie calls out to him at night, and he decides to bring her back to his home in Giant Country. Unfortunately, the other giants catch up with BFG and wreak havoc in his home, trashing the place and setting his dreams loose. After trying to scare them off with fire and water, BFG and Sophie come up with a plan to stop the giants for good. They concoct a nightmare where the giants are depicted as taking and eating children, which Sophie presents to Queen Elizabeth after they sneak into Buckingham Palace. When the Queen has the same nightmare, she alerts her staff and discovers a newspaper article about missing children in London. Sophie then reveals herself to the Queen and introduces her to BFG, seeking her help to stop the dangerous giants. The BFG is a charming and magical story of friendship and bravery that highlights the importance of dreaming big and facing one's fears. The Queen agrees to help Sophie and BFG capture the other dangerous giants who have been taking and eating children. After a meal with the Queen's staff, BFG provides them with glasses of frobscottle, which leads to some explosive, comedic moments. The plan is to plant nightmares into the giants' minds to deter them from their harmful ways. However, BFG realizes that he has left his trumpet behind, leaving Sophie to improvise by running into the field with a jar of nightmares. The giants are affected, except for the leader Fleshlumpeter, who prepares to attack. Fortunately, the soldiers arrive just in time to capture Fleshlumpeter and the rest of the giants, exiling them to a remote island where they are forced to survive on snozzcumbers for the rest of their days. As a result of her bravery, Sophie finds a new home in the Queen's palace under Mary's care. She recounts a dream where she sees BFG's home with a beautiful garden filled with fresh vegetables, with the occasional snozzcumber. Sophie then calls out to BFG from her window, and he hears her from his home, smiling with happiness.